What's up, everybody? It's Troy Cartwright. Welcome back to another episode of 10-Year Town. Before we get started, a couple favors to ask of you. Number one, if you haven't already, if you could leave us a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, it helps us out a ton. And the second thing is we are getting ready to launch a few live events. So if you want to make sure you're aware of those, join the 10-Year Town community at 10yeartown.com. Thanks. Today's guest is Grammy-nominated songwriter and producer Tofer Brown. You know Tofer from his songs like Night Shift, recorded by Jon Pardi, The Wine, The Beer, and The Whiskey, recorded by Little Big Town, and so many other great records that he has been a part of, either as a writer or a producer. I've known Tofer for a long time. He's one of my favorite guys in Nashville, and I really enjoyed this conversation. I know you guys will too. So without further ado, here he is, Tofer Brown. Hey, man.
Do you research? Like, did you go deep in the feed about me?
I have a method.
Oh, he just...
I don't want to tell my methods.
Yeah, because I'll hack it and start.
No,
8-Year Town.
For someone like you that I know, mm-hmm. I just sort of do more like I know your first number one song. Although I also have a lot of anxiety, so
which is funny because I've never had a number one.
After I just said that, what?
Never had a number one.
That's not true.
Not at radio. Did I just lose qualification for being here?
No, because I was looking it up today. Because what was the single that you had before The Wine, The Beer, and The Whiskey?
Night Shift.
Night Shift
didn't go number one.
What?
But thanks for reminding me.
How close?
Midweek it was at 2, and then it finished at 4.
Okay, that's a hit song, buddy.
Yeah, I mean it helped me buy a house, so I guess it.
I'm crediting that as a number one song.
Why don't we just say hit?
Hit song. That's when they put hit song on the banner.
Oh, it's always
it was 2 spins away.
Or his hit song or participation award.
And I did go to Wikipedia and look up The Wine, The Beer, and The Whiskey, which I don't remember what it got to, but also I would totally categorize that as a hit song and probably something due to the weirdness of COVID, probably. Yep. Just kind of didn't actually go number one. Mm-hmm. But you're certainly a songwriter and producer of great note. You have had a lot of success, and we're immediately getting off track here because I'm supposed to ask you how long you've been in town.
Wait, okay, do you want to really start this a little bit?
Well, how long have you been in town?
Next year will mark 20 years.
Wow.
So for me, it's a 20-year town.
Where from?
I was born in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, in the same hospital as Haley Witters.
What? I just didn't.
St. Luke's Hospital.
You don't give off?
I don't
actually now. Maybe so. I don't know. I feel like
I don't know.
I wouldn't have said Iowa.
Well, I don't really claim that as home because my whole family's from Missouri, and I was the only one born in Iowa. And then high school, college, I was in Columbia, Missouri, where the University of Missouri is, which I'm assuming you've probably played a show there.
Yeah, I was actually going to say. I said, you don't give Iowa vibes, you give St. Louis vibes.
There you go.
So I was reading that correctly.
Yoda over here.
Yeah. I got a big, great intuition for what geographical area people are from.
Wait, are you from Indiana or somewhere like that?
No, I'm from Dallas.
You're a Texas boy?
Yeah, man, I am.
You don't sound Texas.
I think because I just grew up in suburbia. Yeah. Dallas. I feel like if you say you're from Texas, there's a lot of people like Brad Clausen. He's from outside Amarillo.
That sounds like a song.
That's Texas.
Outside of Amarillo.
Yeah. It is actually a pretty good song title idea.
There you go.
But yeah, I just like grew up like, down the street from like a Whataburger and a Taco Bell next to a
Whataburger's
Walgreens.
so overrated. I'm not going to detour too much, but what a boring burger is what it should be called.
We will quick detour.
He's like,
Whataburger,
like no,
Whataburger is fine.
This is where we edit.
Whataburger is, I feel like you ride hard for the fast food joint that is like regionally yours. I feel the same way about In-N-Out. It like doesn't do it for me. But Whataburger does it for me because I have all these memories of like being like 20 and like being hammered and my buddy driving me to Whataburger.
Underage, okay, you're 20, so you're almost there, almost responsible enough.
Yep. But I had someone else drive and I would drive through the Whataburger and like, it just...
But I think that if anyone is fighting about fast food, I think it's time to check in on yourself. Yeah. If you're like, this is where I'm putting my stake in the ground. You're like, In-N-Out or bust. I'm like, it's a fast food burger.
Right. Like, let's chill out. I think it's good to care about things that don't really matter, but that's probably just going to bother someone that's really into it.
That's the quote for this one. I think it's good to care about things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I've been here 20 years.
Okay. So you said you went to college in Missouri?
I went 2 years to a small school, liberal arts. Wow, that's hard to say.
Yeah.
Plus, I'm super drunk right now. Called Columbia College, and I was a philosophy and religious studies major.
Wow.
But don't let it confuse you. I'm not that deep.
How far did you get into philosophy? Like just through Plato?
Just through Plato's closet. There's your new sponsor. I got pretty deep in the weeds, but I always wanted to be in Nashville. Historically, I found out about Belmont when I was a sophomore in high school, and I was like, you can go to school for music business? Like, that's an actual thing. So I begged my parents sophomore, junior, senior year, and then I graduated high school, and they're like, no, we don't think you're ready. I was like, I think I'm ready.
Wow.
And so I was busy just writing songs and recording in my parents' basement.
Yeah.
And every year I'd be like, or every 6 months, I'm like, I could transfer. And then finally, after about 4 or 5 years of me talking about it, they were like, okay, it's obviously... this is serious. Like,
it's not a phase.
It's not a phase. Like, we've gone through the 3 or 4 year cycle of this. And I transferred to Belmont and I dropped out after a semester.
Wow.
So
couldn't hack it?
It just wasn't for me. I think it's a really wonderful school for a lot of people, but I kind of came to Nashville and knew what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
And it seemed a little bit prolonging my entrance into the music business.
It seems like you were already kind of doing it in terms of like you were already like
with thick quotation marks around
sure.
it. Yeah.
But you were like already producing.
Yeah. I mean, when you grow up in the Midwest, I always tell people you have 3 options. You either do sports, drugs, or music.
Yeah.
And I played golf, so I don't know if that really qualifies for sports.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, I was all-state in high school, so watch out, Tiger Woods. I didn't do drugs, so I was a classical nerd. I studied classical piano for like 11 years, and then I bought recording equipment. I played drums in a band, and then I played in church. And so when you're 12 to 16 and you have a Roland VS 1680 digital workstation, everyone's like, oh, I wrote a song, do you want to record it? So I kind of like was the only kid that just was, and it wasn't good. I'm not saying that I was like seasoned by any mean, but I kind of knew how to do it at least.
Yeah. Well, I think it's really good to just get the reps in.
Yeah.
Like as early as you can.
Yeah, and that was before really me, Pro Tools was out in Logic, but I wasn't learned in that. So this was just me playing full takes of everything. Like, I didn't even know how to punch in. So, my chops just got better because I was like, and I think that really has settled in my brain because now when I go to do demos, it's like we can finish a song. And I remember arrangement like that. And I don't think it's because I'm like have a superpower. I think it's just because I did it so much as a kid.
Yeah, you kind of get used to.
Mm-hmm.
I actually really prefer to do vocal takes if I can.
Full pass.
I would rather sing the whole song like 4 times than to
clip emotionally.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
I get the full emotional range
Mm-hmm.
through the whole song. And sometimes when I'm punching in, it's just really hard. Like I lose the thing and then I listen back and I'm like, it's not
It's kind
right.
of like running and then just stopping and saying, okay, I'm going to run again. And then I'm just stopping. Like it is it's a whole scene. It's not just like vignettes of it. It's like, it's the whole picture.
Yeah.
But to each their own. I know some people that are like, just give me 5 verses, 5.
Sure.
Yeah.
There's always like,
I appreciate
reasons.
though a full taker though.
Yeah. Hey, I'm your guy. You know?
All right. One take joy over here.
Last time we wrote, the world shut down. So I think we're kind of nervous to get back in the room again, but I think it'll happen at some point.
Yeah, me and Adam James. It was right as COVID. You were about to play shows with Hardy. I remember that, right?
I think I'd just been. Yes, I left the next day
To go to Indiana,
I went to Lancaster, Pennsylvania.
just like I said.
Yes, and I played at this club called the Chameleon, and it's gone. And it's really sad because
Did COVID take it out?
Yeah, didn't make
Did it really?
Yeah.
Oh wow, too soon. Sorry,
Yeah.
Tofer.
And then, I didn't write again.
I just
in
remember
person for like a year.
You and I, we were like, you kept looking at me, and you're like, should I do the show? Like it's not gonna be a deal. And we're like, bro, you're fine. What's the worst that could happen? And then the funny thing is, we've known each other forever. That's the only time we've written.
I know. We'll fix it.
Yeah, I'll have your people call my intern. I'm joking.
So,
But that was the last. That was, and then the big bad thing happened.
yeah.
What a bummer.
So, anyway, you drop out of Belmont. You're a quitter, and you get into how do you start?
I came here as an artist.
Okay.
I had made a couple independent records under my birth name, which is Christopher.
Okay. Love that.
And so I had 2 albums as Chris Brown, but then I got a cease and desist letter.
Oh, wow.
From Chris Brown's people. They shut down my MySpace. They actually, it kind of became like this weird legend at Belmont. And like they've used me as an example in the copyright classes because you can't technically copyright a birth name. You can trademark a symbol around it.
Yeah.
That's a detour. That's stupid. But yeah, so at that point I was like, oh, I got to make a record and I don't know what I'm going to do. And I called my parents. I'm like, so you know how I begged to go to Belmont? Well, I'm going to drop out and I'm going to figure it out. They're like, what's your plan? I'm like, I don't know, but I'll figure it out. Just give me a little time.
Yeah.
So that was during the MySpace days,
which
was basically what Instagram and TikTok are
right
now. And I just started email. I was always a networker. Like no shame. I'm like, the worst thing anyone can ever say is no.
Yeah.
It's not like they can kill you or something.
Right.
And if they do, then they're going to jail and you're dead. So I just started firing up. I would like look up producers and songwriters. And I remember there was a record by a Christian band called Mercy Me. And I saw this guy's name, Pete Kipley. And I was like, I just remember thinking, I was like, that, Christian music can be a little saccharine, a little cheesy, a little but I remember just thinking, wow, he's really good. Like I appreciated his choices and everything. And so I just messaged him on MySpace. Just cold. I was like, hey man, I just dropped out of Belmont. I always tell people I liken studying music is like, you can take 1 million foreign language classes, but until you live in the country, you don't speak the language.
right.
So, and that's what I felt. I was like, man, I don't want to learn about engineering. I want to be in it. I want to be in the studio. So I just said, hey, I would just love to be a fly on the wall. I'd love to meet you. I don't know if you ever need anyone hanging around to do anything from a Starbucks run to whatever.
Yeah.
He wrote me back and he was like, hey, I'm in the middle of this record with this guy named Phil Wickham, which is a big Christian artist. And he's like, I'll email you in 2 weeks. So he emailed me 2 weeks later on MySpace, and it was like 11 o'clock on a Saturday night. He was like, hey, come to the studio right now. I'm like, whoa, are you up? I was like, what is this all about? So I go, and he's there with Phil Wickham. They're finishing up the first record. We were up till 3 or 4 in the morning. We went to Sunset Grill, which is old school Nashville restaurant that was in Hillsborough Village. And he was like, start Monday. He's like, see you at 11. I was like, okay. We didn't talk about anything like, am I getting paid? Is this internship?
Yeah.
So Monday rolls around and I get a call at 11:15 a.m. I had stayed up really late and I assumed he meant 11 o'clock at night because that's when we started last time. And he's like, where are you? I was like, well, you said 11. And I mean, that's when I came last time. He's like, no, I meant 11 a.m. So the first day. Like, dear music business, I'm like, so late. Oh my God. Because I was living in like Nipper's Corner and his studio was in like Music Row area. So that began my journey into the big bad music business. And I worked for him for a couple of years. And that kind of got my toes wet with meeting artists and writing. And then he would like he'd be like, oh, do you want to do some background vocals on this? Like it just kind of eased in more and more. And then I got a cut with Phil Wickham. And meanwhile, I'm like doing all my artist stuff and trying to make a record. And then he approaches me. He's like, I'd love to make your record. So we tried. I got close. I mean, my story of all the labels, I got close to a deal with Capitol out of New York for a pop deal. It was the classic, like, we hear the second and the third single. We just need that first one. And that just created the cancer in my head of not being able to write a song.
Yeah.
They love doing that.
Yes, it's called music business induced psychosis. I think
it's the actual worst. And so I would like finish a verse and I'd send it to the editor. I'm like, is this it? Is this it? And then I just stopped writing songs for what I thought I was supposed. Like it just, I was writing for the man.
Yeah.
So I kind of just kept hitting walls as an artist, and then I was in a duo for a little bit with a girl I dated, and like a month into us writing our first song, she worked at Starbucks, and this producer came up to her and was like, hey, do you sing? I'm like, she's a pretty girl. No, so stereotypical. And she calls me afterwards. She's like, this producer invited us to his studio to play a song. I was like, who was it? She's like, this guy named Jay Joyce. And I was like, what? I was like, do you know who you talked to? And I was like, Flaming Red, which was like one of her favorite albums, Patty Griffin. And so we were at Jay Joyce's studio the next week and we played one song and he's like, I want to do this. Let's do this. I'm going to put together a developmental deal and we'll do this. And he looked at me right then and he was like, okay, you have a choice. Are you a solo artist or are you in this band? And I just was like, I'm in a band. So like 10 years of me doing independent singer-songwriter, getting close to deals, publishing deals, I just was like, I was like, forget about it. So we like made a plan, and then classic music business, we got closer to it. And I love Jay, he's a friend, but like it was not I was pretty learned at this point of knowing how deals looked because I'd kind of gone through the ringer. And it was not a very favorable deal. And she was like, we got to do it right. I was like, I don't know. Like, I think we're going to be signing over like our future kids to this deal.
Right.
And so we didn't. And then we went through it and we worked with Chris Lindsay, and then we cut sides with Garth Fundus, and then Jay came back. And then along all that, I had built quite a lot of relationships in town, and I had been writing, and I had been offered publishing deals on and off for 8 years. And I just kept saying no. I think I just had this like ego in me that was like, you're going to do it by yourself. You don't need anyone. Yeah. Look at Shane McAnally. Yeah. And I was like, I too can be him. And that didn't work out. And then she and I broke up the band, and my brother was a staff writer at a company. He's like, dude, why don't you just open up a little bit? Like, why don't you just see if you intentionally go for a publishing deal? Yeah. And so I did for 6 months. All I did was just write with anyone I could. And within 6 months, I had like 3 offers. Wow. That was 2000. I moved here in 05, so that was probably like 07 or 08
Yeah.
ish.
Wow.
9. I don't know. I'm pretty bad with timeline.
And then
it was later than that. 10, 11. I don't know.
One of 6 years ago.
I like everything. I don't remember years.
Yeah.
1999 still feels like 5 years ago.
What company was that with?
A company called Razor and Tie
Yeah.
Publishing.
Yep.
First champion was Ross Asher.
Okay.
And he was the guy, everyone's like, you need that champion. You need that person that goes to bed thinking about your career and wakes up thinking about it and positioning you. And he was that person. I had a couple. Carla Wallace was also an early believer at Big Yellow Dog. And, but Ross was just adamant and he was passionate. And I just, I was like, it all felt scary, to be honest. Like I was just timid because I had held out for so long and I'd gotten some cuts on records and made a little mailbox money. And but it just got tiring trying to keep the wheels going forward. When you're your admin, you're doing all the things. And so I signed there.
What did you find when you allowed, when you like opened yourself up to receive help? Did it help?
It really did. I always say like it kind of alleviates the stress of thinking about all the things that you shouldn't as a songwriter and a producer. Like it allowed me to create space for just being creative. Like more of the energy was going into that, less calendar, less, oh, did I get paid for this? Oh, I need to hit up that. Like it just, that really can eat up a lot of time. As we all know, because we've all been independent at some point.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think it just hit a point where I remember I was talking, do you know Charlie Peacock?
I don't think so.
Switchfoot, and he did the Civil Wars record, big producer, writer. And I remember meeting with him, and he was kind of an early, almost like mentor guy I would meet with. And he did the classic. He's like, would you rather have 100% of nothing or 50 or 75% of something? And I had always heard that, but it just kind of hit the point where I was like, well, durr.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yep.
Amazing. So,
well, see you later.
Yeah. Great. And Razor and Tie, like, didn't they get bought by Concord at some point?
They did.
So have you just been riding that wave like the whole time?
I have been at the same company my entire career.
Wow.
Which is kind of bizarre.
It's impressive.
I think I'm coming up on, again, bad with years, 12, 14 years, somewhere around there.
You've got staying power.
Yeah, I've technically been there longer than the staff now.
Yeah, you've been
There's been regime
you've been
change.
in the building, and the building has literally changed owners, like maybe twice.
Yeah. So Concord bought out half of Razor and Tie, I think like 7 or 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And then eventually they just absorbed the whole thing.
Wow.
And I'm still there, man.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, you've written a lot of great songs, although as I learned earlier, apparently Night Shift did not go number one.
It did.
Even though I'm not even sure that you're right, even though I know that you know.
I like that optimism.
Yeah. But I don't know. What was that like, being a part of a song like Night Shift? I feel like that was sort of like a big song at a big time in Jon Pardi's career.
Yeah.
And like, I don't know, what was that ride like?
It was pretty wild, to say the least, but I think more so just because, I remember when we wrote that song, I wrote it with Billy Montana and Philip LaRue.
Yeah.
And great writers, great dudes. And I remember I hired Billy's son, Randy Montana, to sing the demo.
Oh,
because
nice.
I was like, I'm not the dude to sing it. And they were like, not the vibe. So I was like, we should just get Randy.
Yeah.
He sang it, and I remember slaving over the demo and just being like, I think there's something to this song, or I'm just really into myself right now. And I just worked really hard on it. And I remember getting maybe a text a few months after we wrote it, and they're like, this newer art, because Pardi had a record out, but he hadn't become Jon Pardi like he is now until that record. But they were like, this guy Jon Pardi wants to cut it. And, you know, there was a little bit of us like, well, should we hold out for like a Luke Bryan or something? And so we almost, I mean, they, obviously it's our copyright. So they were like, are you guys cool with him cutting it? We're like, they're like, he really likes it. I'm like, yeah, I know what that means. That's the Target exclusive Korean deluxe edition cut.
Yeah.
So he cut it. And then I think Head Over Boots was the first single off that record.
Yeah.
Great song. And they were like, it's the second single. And we're like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah.
And then it was not the second single. And then they're like, it's the third single. And we're like, okay. And then it was not the third. And at that point, we're like, this isn't happening, because this is like, it wasn't his debut record, but it was almost like a debut because it was a shift. Like he changed producers, changed teams. So
yeah,
it was kind of a reintroduction to him. And then won the third, and they're like, they're going 4 deep because he kind of just kept getting hammers.
Yeah.
And then they went with another song on the fourth. I'm like, well, that's it. This is not happening, because only like Luke Combs or Luke Bryan or Morgan go 5-6 singles deep. And I remember the fourth got to like the top 20 and it just lost steam. And I'm like, okay, they're going to a new record. And then I remember Brad Kennard, the head of Concord, calling me. He's like, you're not going to believe this, but they're going for a 5th single. And I'm like, what? and they did. And obviously it wasn't a technical number one, but it's still, it's most streamed song on Spotify. Yeah. And it's just one of those evergreens. And it's an
amazing song.
Thanks. I'm grateful for it. I mean, it is like a country song.
Yeah.
Like if you know the kind of songs I write, I don't think that would be like the top of my bio as far as default setting, but I'm extremely grateful for it.
Yeah. How did that sort of, like the success of that, did that sort of like change the nature of the rooms that you were getting into? As you say, like that type of song is maybe not your default setting. So did that like cause some chaos in your writing life, or was it all right?
It obviously opened a lot of doors, and a lot more people suddenly knew, because I've always been like the left of center guy. Yeah. I'm not the Ben Hayslip that's going to just give you like a country song. So it did, I think it felt a little, I don't want to say imposter syndrome, because I grew up listening to country. I know the genre, but I wasn't like with a forklift in a truck with chaw in my lip, or like, I'm not that dude.
Yeah.
It was a little bit of a like, oh gosh, how do I do this now? Because that's what people are going to, they're like, you got another night shift? I'm like, well, it's called day worker. And it goes like, oh, I'm like, I don't know. I'm like, here, beer is the next song. I'm like,
yeah.
But I always attribute a lot to what we do. It's like, we're only as good as the people we're with too. So it's like, I know my strengths in a room, and I know if I'm with Dirtily Dur, the countryest guy in the world, I'm like, I'll probably move more and try to push it melodically or musically at a little bit,
Yeah.
But as I've been here now, you absorb a lot of the vernacular, and you kind of start knowing it more.
Yeah. Well, there is like this big skill set, I think, that you learn over time of like, how do you best assist whatever is happening in the room. And like, in a perfect world for me, I'm just getting to sort of like be I think of it as like, okay, somebody's throwing out the lines. I'm just trying to make sure like it's cool.
Yeah.
Like I'm just literally like kind of trying to sit in the middle and like it's like, okay, this is awesome.
Totally.
Maybe this line could be, what if it was like this?
And that is a very needed role. Like,
yeah,
I think one thing that I lead with a lot is I try to listen a lot, like, and just kind of figure out, you can learn a lot about people very quickly if you're just quiet.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, I'm not necessarily the quietest person. I'm a very loud and silly person, but I'm pretty perceptive of like discernment and just kind of picking up on people's energy and what they do. And I think being a good songwriter is being a good listener and kind of knowing your role in the room and not trying to, I do think really we all go into these rooms equally. Obviously there can be people with more success, someone with this, that, but we're all just trying to get a good song. Like we're not trying to, like, this is not brain surgery. No one actually technically needs this song from us right now.
Right. And it's like, I don't know. I was trying to remind myself, it's like, we don't just need another song today.
Yeah.
We need a good one.
Yeah.
We need a great one. If we make a great one, we can do something with that.
Totally.
If I just get another like song that's like, well, there's nothing wrong with it. But
yeah, honestly, I would rather watch a movie than just write a song like that.
Yeah.
I would rather dip back in, put some water in the well and get a little inspiration.
Yeah. I'm the same way. I've been, did this interview with Stephen Wilson Jr. and like, I was like,
the greatest artist.
What's the advice? And he's like, slow down.
Honestly,
but he's right.
It's so true. I think, and I do think that, and you probably, how long have you been here again? You should just say 10 years.
It's not 10 years. It's 8.
Every
8
single
and some
time.
change. Yeah. Yeah. It's been
He's
10
like
years.
10 years. I've just, every year is 10. I think that comes with maturity and growing just as a human. Like I look back on me as a 20-year-old moving here and being like, I'm here to prove myself.
Right.
Obviously you want to be known for something and you want to prove yourself still and care, but I don't care as much in the sense that I feel like I have to prove, like I'm like have this anxiety. Sometimes you get with these young writers or young artists and it's like, I have compassion because I'm like, oh, I was that. Yeah. Like I remember that. But like now it's like, I'm okay if we get in a room, like if you and I got in a room and we're like, hey, it's not here today.
Yeah.
Do you want to go grab a drink or something? Like,
you want to go to Velvet Taco
and get a crocodile taco? Don't they have that? Or gator taco? So gross. Like, why are we eating alligators?
I don't know.
There's no point
Protein.
to that. Yeah, I'd rather eat a chicken. I'm sorry. I don't want to know that my wants to annihilate me at first sight.
Have you seen the chickens?
Yeah.
These chickens can kick your ass.
What chickens are you looking at,
dude?
Man?
I'll send you an infographic I was checking out the other day.
An infographic.
These chickens are jacked.
These chickens are kicking.
These chickens are pumped full of HGH.
I mean, yeah, that's true. I guess the chicken I have caught, it was like someone in someone's backyard.
Yeah.
They're hard to catch, but we don't need, this is not a podcast about chickens. Although it could be, we're in Nashville, hot chicken.
Yeah.
But all that to say is I have slowed down. Like I'm like, I don't feel defeated. Like I know some writers are like, man, we didn't get a song today. And I'm like, okay,
it's fine.
Tomorrow's another day. Like, and it just wasn't in the cards. And that's sometimes just talking in a room with someone is way more important than trying to force out a ugly song.
Yeah, I agree.
Build a relationship.
How do you, I don't know. I feel like you have carved out this lane for yourself. Honestly, I don't even know how I would describe it, but I feel like you've got your own thing.
You're special.
You're special. No, I mean, obviously you do a lot of production work. Mm-hmm. As you said earlier, you kind of, I don't know, have like branded yourself, which is kind of a weird way to say it, but I guess it's true. Like as like a left of center, kind of writer, producer, etc.
Yeah.
How do you like, I don't know, how do you navigate that going like, where do you see yourself doing next, or what are you excited about right now? It's a very open-ended question.
Yeah, I'm like, this is getting very, very deep. I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I going to do with my life? I really like, I think the thing that I always is like the meter as to like why I do this and what keeps me going is I'm drawn in by interesting people with unique stories or memorable voices. You know, there's a million. You can go down Broadway right now and you can hear a lot of talent.
Yeah.
Some of the best players in the world, quite frankly.
Yeah.
That doesn't necessarily mean it's special. I mean, that sounds rude, but like I think if you look back at my career, like there's been a lot of female artists, obviously. Like I grew up loving female voices. Like always did. I don't know why, but I just was always just my favorite. But I think I'm just always, what next is like, what makes me want to go back into my parents' basement and make music again? Like what actually is going to bring joy and an excitement to find a cool guitar tone and like find a cool melody. And what if we did the fifth harmony on that instead of the third? Like I think COVID was like a huge moment for all of us for obvious reasons. But for me, it like kind of stripped back the paint and got back to the base layer and made me be like, okay, well, what do you like anymore? Like, what do you like? Cause it's very easy in Nashville to feel pressure and to just keep going. And like, you know, obviously we can talk about social media, but like comparison is a thief of joy. Like that quote is very real. And it's easy to get lost in the sauce and get so business minded that you just forget, do I like this anymore? Like, do I like the music I'm making? Cause I can make it. And that's been tricky for me because I do think myself a little bit of a chameleon where I love a lot of genres. Yeah. I mean, I've worked on pop, country, sync music, R&B, like I jump around, but I think the common denominator is I just like it. Like the artist, like the voice, obviously if it's a production thing, a huge aspect for me is the hang. Yeah. Because there's, as you know, you make records, there's a lot of time with the other person, the producer or the musicians. And so if it comes to like producing a record for me, I tend to will write with someone a lot, like just try to get some sessions and just see if there's like, oh, I would love to just like hang out with this person outside, because that's a lot of what we do. It's a lot of hanging out. Yeah. It's like fielding a band. Yeah. I don't know if that answers your question, but I think the more and more I do it, the more intentional I want to be. And the more I just am like, man, do I like this person? And do I like what they're trying to say? And that exists in every genre. It really does. I mean, there are people in this town that are totally fine with writing 5 days a week, going for the Morgan cuts. And I'm like, go do that. Yeah. I'm not saying I won't do that every now and then, but I just like a lot of music. I mean, if you look at the stuff I grew up on, it genuinely is like, it's a little schizophrenic in nature. Yeah. You'll see some like classical, like Rachmaninoff, and then System of a Down, and then like the Beatles and Simon and Garfunkel, and then Garth Brooks. And it's like, but I think that's like how people listen to music. If you go to my Spotify and you go to my liked songs, like it's all over. It's all over the place. And some of it is like, and that's how it's consumed now on playlists. Like on New Music Friday, it's like you can be like hearing something super 808 heavy, and then some little girl in her basement with like a nylon string. I'm like, we're just absorbing all of it. But I think what you, when you talked earlier about like going down to like the base layer of what you like, and like trying not to get like, I don't know, trying not to lose yourself in the process. I think that's a really important thing that, I don't know. I hate the phrase like, it's not talked about enough, but it's not talked about enough. Maybe it's not. I think that there is sort of a little bit of, I talked earlier about the music business induced psychosis. I think that there's a little bit of that going on with like, okay, we have seen that social media can like blow up an artist. It is very true. Yes. That doesn't mean that every artist needs to be on social media all the time. And even the ones that are successful in social media, like don't have to be on social media every day. And I feel like there's like I like
delete social media for like a month or so at a time.
Yes.
And like, I get so much better at making songs.
Well,
and like making records and doing all this stuff because I'm like, oh yeah, like that stuff is insane. And then last night I had to log in on Instagram on my computer to accept a collab on something. Dude, for the next 3 hours, I was like, oh, I really want to go back and watch that person's story. Like it's
ruining the world. I'm just going to say it.
It's making people sick.
Yeah.
You know, and it's helpful.
It's a tool. It can't be your life, and it
Yeah.
can't be your foundation because, like I said, at one point, MySpace was everything.
Yeah.
It was $1 billion, $1 trillion company, and it's like, this is all you need to do. And now it doesn't exist. And so it's like, I think that if we can scale it back and realize that social media, it's important. It's a great way to get your music to a lot of people quickly.
Yeah.
Or not, if you don't hit the algorithm jackpot.
Right.
But it's a tool. It's not going to make you write better songs. It's not going to create better material. It's not going to make you a better artist by any means.
It's the cherry on top. It can't be the whole.
Can't be the whole sundae.
Yeah.
Or banana split, depending on what you're eating.
Right. And I don't know. I think it bums me out sometimes because I see like, I mean, I've been through it personally, and then like friends of mine or artists that I admire, like I could see the love of the thing being like literally just draining out of their balloon in real time because like the song's not going viral on the internet.
And so
I'm
they
like,
think they're not good. It's
I know.
the amount of mental breakdowns that have happened in my studio with artists is uncountable at this point.
Really? Are they all from social media?
80%.
Yeah.
Like it really is. Like it's weird. It's such a double-edged sword because you can argue why it's good, but you really can argue why it's bad too. Like, and I will not make a blanket statement and be like, don't use it, because I get it. It is a tool just like MySpace or Facebook or whatever the platform. But man, it's like building a house on sand. Like it's just going to shift. Like, and you can't, the business still is built on good songs.
Yeah.
And good art.
Don't forget it.
Like that is the foundation. I'm not saying that it's not cool if 20 million people saw your video and now you're a little more famous and known and your plays are going up. Yes. But how you keep those people is not your silly video. It's art.
Yeah.
Like that is what's going to keep people coming back.
Yeah.
Unless if you want to be a comedian, be a comedian. Like do
Right.
it. Like go.
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
It's like I feel like social media is like a venomous snake, and like it's pretty cool. If you had like a venomous snake, I'd be like, dude, this guy's a badass. But like I wouldn't let it like live in my house with no cage.
No
That'd
way.
be insane.
Actually, I don't think anyone should have a snake. This is not what the podcast is about. It's about chickens and snake now. People that have pet snakes, why? Why in the world would you have a pet snake?
You know, you feed it stuff.
Mice.
Yeah.
Living creatures.
Yeah. Well, for the sake of my analogy, all I'm saying is social media is like a venomous snake.
Very cool.
It can be very cool,
But it can kill you.
yeah, just make sure you protect yourself. That's
Yeah.
my advice to anybody. It's like, it's awesome. Like, use it. Use the tool.
Well, and the problem is, I think the cart, what's the phrase? Cart.
Don't put
before
the cart before the horse.
Is
yeah.
happening. What I'm seeing a lot with the younger generation, and I can say that now because I am older,
Yeah.
is they're teasing their songs. They don't even like, artists don't even know what they like anymore. They're going and putting it out there before they even know who they are or what they want to say. And so what's happening is they're building businesses without structure. And so it's going to get bigger. Like you can build a building fast,
Yeah.
but if it's not laid right, that crap is going to fall.
Leaning
eventually.
Tower of Pisa,
Exactly.
you know?
And a big thing with me, like I love artist development because I think I didn't really have that as an artist. So I think we tend to be what we never had. Mm-hmm. And I always want to be that for artists and just kind of be a soft place to land, and also just a soundboard, just like shoot the breeze and be like, okay, what are we doing here? Like, what?
Yeah.
And I think what's happened is, like, a question I always ask artists first, I'm like, figure out what you don't want to be first. Don't figure out, like, don't be like, I like this. Figure out, like, let's just cut out some of the fat before we start building. Like, okay, so you don't like something that's more rock. Let's not do that. Like you know, like that. But what's happening is these artists are just like so insecure and anxious, and they're just like, oh, well, this person liked it, and that's who I am. And I'm like, it's this recipe. It's basically child actor syndrome in music.
Yeah. Yes, it's a hard problem to solve, but
there's no fix.
We just got to raise some awareness, you know.
Oh my gosh. And that's why I want you to vote for me.
So last question before we get out of here. I always like to ask each guest this. If you could go back in time to younger you, just getting started on the journey, what's like a piece of advice you give yourself?
That's a really good question. I always come back to this quote that my brother told me, and it was later in my life. And it made sense then, but it makes so much more sense to me now. And I would have instilled it in teenage brain me and 20-something is, what's meant for you will always be for you. And no one can take that, and no one can replace that. And I think in this age of comparison and, they have more fun. Like, dude, you can chill. Like, you're going to get there. Your story is not going to be so-and-so's story, and that's what makes you so wonderfully you. And I think that when I first came here, I had that tenacity, and I'm still a tenacious person. I like to work. I like to make the ball go forward more, but it's okay. Like, kind of the Steven Wilson, like, you can slow down and just trust the process a little bit. It doesn't mean, like, be lazy, but, like, you being more assertive isn't going to make it happen better. And I think that, I think I would go back and tell myself that, like, it's okay. Like, live a little bit. Also, like, it's very easy to just not stop and just always work. And I look back to early me, like, working 7 days a week, 8 days a week, just going and frying out and being like, why am I tired? I'm like, it's because I'm not resting.
Yeah.
Like, we were not created to be machines. Like, God created a day of rest intentionally. He even needed to chill. Like, he was like, I got to take this day off. Like, if Lord of the universe is needing to breathe, then you need to breathe too. Yeah. And I would look back at me and be like, hey, you don't need to put in all those Saturdays and Sundays because I'm actually a better creator now, creating less.
Yeah.
Because it's quality now and it matters more and my time is more intentional. And then when I'm showing up, I actually care and I'm not thinking about the next thing and getting my head taken out because I'm already thinking about tomorrow's session or the next week, which, don't get me wrong, I have busy weeks where I'm like, oh my gosh, I bit off more than I can chew. But it's okay. Less, being more intentional, quality. It's not a numbers game.
I love that. It's great advice. Bravo.
Thanks, man.
Well, I feel like you got to come back at some point because I feel like there's just a lot more we could talk about.
I would love to.
But at any rate, for now, thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Troy Cartwright.
I appreciate you. That's it. That's the pod.
That's the pod, dog.
See you later. Hey guys, thank you so much for listening. If you want to submit a question for one of our Q&A episodes, you can do so at tenuretowne.com. We would love it if you would join the Tenuretown community, which just means we'll send you updates via email about stuff we got going on. And of course, please rate and review on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or YouTube. Wherever you listen or watch this thing, we appreciate you so much. See you next week.